Welcome to another Pint with Seaniebee, coming to you from Dublin today. I've got a guy I've known for maybe 20 years, but I don't know an awful lot about him. We used to play football together for Clontarf Athletic, which is about as high up the footballing ladder as I ever got. I played with him for a couple of seasons. This guy used to be a professional footballer. He's a jack of all trades. He's got his fingers in loads of pies. He's a very famous Irish advertising guy, and he's done lots of stuff with his life, and we're going to find out about it. I'm welcoming Gary Brown. How are you, sir?
Oh, very good, Sean. Good to see you.
I might ask you to move a little bit
Yes,
closer.
of course, yeah. I don't want to get too close.
Do you remember our Clontarf Athletic days?
I do, yeah.
Was they any good?
You were. You're a bit lazy, but you were good, yeah. You had, but you could probably say that about your whole career, could you really?
I could, yeah. That would sum me up in many areas.
No, you were a bit of a Berbatov, I thought. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, head goes down.
It was raining, you didn't fancy you sometimes, yeah, but you could play.
I remember that there was actually a few guys playing on that team who were ex-Man United. Pierce O'Leary was there.
That's
there was
right.
a few other lads. I mean, it was quite...
There was a lot of Mick Lawler for start. Mick has 6 caps for Republic of Ireland. I played badly and briefly for Shelbourne and St. Pat's, but we were all kind of past ourselves by that stage. I mean, I started playing for Clontarf Athletic when I was 39. So.
And I was about 25, I'd say, 24.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Well, listen, the only thing I say to you is Mick would have overseen everything on that club. And, if you were in that team, you could play. We had a way of playing. It was always 4-4-2. There was the system. So if you were playing in that setup, you could play. Now, whether you applied yourself, that's another story, but you could play, So that's...
Was your first interest as a kid getting into soccer?
Yeah, it was. I'm from the inner city in Church Street. Tenement houses and tenement buildings, they started to fall down, and we were moved then. One side of the street was moved to Cabra West, and the other side was moved to Ballyfermot, which is interesting.
Right. What were your folks? Would they work?
My dad was a docker. He was killed when I was very young. He was killed at the docks. Yeah, he was killed when I was 11. He would have left school when he was.
Was it an accident?
40. Yeah, he was. They were moving cases of mahogany on a crane, and the crane collapsed, and he was crushed underneath. So, 34 years of age, he was killed. Yeah.
How many kids do you?
4 of us. Yeah, I was the eldest, and my mother. So we were living in Cabra at that stage. So look, it was tough, and as I say, at the time, we didn't have any money, but we weren't poor, if you know what I mean. I mean, my mother was always worked that night. My mother's a great character, still alive. My father still has a very profound influence on my life, despite the fact that I lost him when I was so young.
So did you step up then and have to grow up real quick?
Yes, probably did, yeah. It's like everything else. When you're in the middle of these situations, you don't realise exactly what's going on. You don't realise whether they're good or bad or indifferent. You just get on with it. And I suppose that was it. I mean, Cabra at the time was, we were out the streets morning and night, and you just played football. That's what you did, 3 or 4 games a day.
And what was school like? Did you have to leave school to start working then?
No, I worked that night. I worked that night as a lounge boy in Matt Whelan's as lounge boys when we were 13 and 14, and made a few bob, and that helped the household. My mother was working at night time as well, so I was minding the kids.
What did your mum do?
She worked in the chipper in Cabra. It's very famous. Became very famous for giving out extra cod to people who didn't have a few bob.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This was Dublin, sort of late 60s.
Late 60s. Yeah.
This whole idea, I'm intrigued about the good old days. Everyone keeps going on about the good days. I saw a reading in the years from 1965, and I went, there's nothing pretty, there's nothing good about those days.
No, there wasn't really much good about it. I mean, the Catholic Church held sway over everything. Teachers held sway. The pillars of society were then where it was the church, the guards, the bank managers, and everything, and they ran society really. So wasn't anything really great about it. I mean, there was a certain level of freedom we had on the streets that kids don't have now because we're all so conscious of all these.
Fearful.
We were just allowed go where we went. I remember going into the pond with some stuff belonged to my father, who was still alive at the time, when I was 10 years of age, getting the bus into Parnell Street, going to the pond it for my mother, and getting the bus back at 10 years of age. That would be unheard of now, but we didn't know any better then. It was just.
But again, that time there wasn't the same drug issues that happened in the 80s or stuff like that, or crime wasn't as bad. There was more community still. I've
no recollection of drugs being an issue. Drink was pervasive as it still is today, which meant a lot of sort of problems at home with some people, dads coming home drunk, being abusive and stuff like that, and so that was going on. But you kids, you kind of just shelter yourselves from that. Now that didn't happen to me because obviously my dad was killed when I was 11. So the streets were tough, but you had to get on with it. If you could be good at football, it became an aspiration for you. And I was lucky that I played with some good schoolboy teams, and then I was picked up by actually the Man United scout at the time, Joe Corcoran, and he was running a team called Cambridge Boys. So I went from Cabra to Ringsend, which was 2 buses, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
I had 13 or 14. And I was lucky to play in a fantastic schoolboy team all the way from 14A up to 18, managing to win the league every year, the Evans Cup, All-Ireland under 15, the FAI Youth Cup twice, under 17 and 18. Cambridge Boys. Yeah,
right.
they're from Ringsend. They're still going. And we had a lot of guys in that team would have went on and played League of Ireland. And then we had John Devine who went to Arsenal. So I was very lucky.
Did you go for trials in the UK?
No, I didn't. I had a couple of opportunities to go at one stage, Coventry City, but I never really. I was probably the worst player on the team that we had, but I was kind of determined. I didn't have your ability. If you'd have had my ability, we could have been away.
So, but you did get into professional football, right? Into Shelbourne.
Yeah, I went to Shelbourne 17 or 18, made my debut in a Leinster Senior League match for the first team against Shamrock Rovers. Got unfortunately a very bad break in my leg just when I was getting myself established in the team. It was a compound fracture. Then they didn't have the technology that they have now, so that kind of knocked me back a bit. But before that, I had actually, when I was away with Cambridge Boys, we went on an end of season tour to play in America. I had just finished my leaving cert. In fact, I was the only fella on the team who had the leaving cert. I remember this. I went on my leaving cert only because when I was young, my dad used to say to me, "You're going to do your leaving cert."
He didn't. No,
he left school when he was 13. But he had this thing at the time to me, brains beat brawn, so you're going to do your leaving cert. And I had numerous chances to get jobs.
When he died, did you feel that, you said earlier that you felt him with you all your life, and did those words echo and drive you to actually do your leaving cert?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, they did, yeah. Because I said, he wanted me to do it, so I'm going to do it. So when I was in America, we played lots of colleges, and it turns out I was offered 2 scholarships to go to America, and one was in Hofstra University, which is a good business college on Long Island. And I contemplated that, but then I thought myself, I have to get a job back home, get a few bob into the house, so that was it, really.
Do you regret that?
No, not really, no.
You were the man of the house, and you had younger siblings, and how did they all finish up?
Yeah, they're all still here, they're all still here. Some of them
don't.
Some of them talk to me, some of them don't.
Really?
It's a traditional Irish family.
Yeah.
But my mother was great through all of this, She got married again, with a stepdad, and he was a good guy. I was very lucky. Then it was just about me trying to get a job, and I became, would you believe, I know you're going to smile when I tell you this, but I became a trainee accountant and studied accountancy for 2 years. Hated it. Hated every minute of it. Went to college at night over in the College of Commerce at Rathmines, did 2 exams and couldn't wait to get the hell out of the place.
But you can work your way around the balance. You would always stand.
Yeah, I can work my way a little bit around that. Yeah.
And then, so again, just the whole not making it as a footballer thing, I want to explore it, because I remember, I've written about this, that the dream that I had of being a professional footballer gets taken away. When you're 12 or 13 that you're not going to make it, you're not good enough with the players around you. Did that have any effect on you? Yeah,
I mean, I knew when I was about 16 or 17 that I wasn't good enough to make a career out of it. Now, I signed for Shells and I was an amateur the first season, but when I signed for Pats, I signed as a professional, and I remember the contract, it was 12 quid a week and 2 quid a pint. At the time I was earning 30 quid a week as a trainee accountant, so it was kind of 50%.
Yeah.
It was worth it, but it didn't last very long. It was only a year. I mean, I realised I just wasn't good enough. Even League of Ireland, I was a mediocre player, and I got by for a couple of seasons.
The League of Ireland would be probably the equivalent of I'm being generous here by saying the 3rd division in England.
Yeah, maybe a little bit higher now. I think it's got better. Yeah, I think it's got better. Yeah. Well, I suppose. The
problem we have in Ireland is a lot of the players in the League of Ireland, as soon as they're any good, they get jumped on by English teams and get brought over to play in the UK, where there's more money for them and all that stuff. And so it's more like a farm. It's a farm league. Where do you see the state of football at the moment here?
It's going nowhere really, and hasn't been. I mean, I was chairman of Shelbourne for 3 seasons. I came back and I got involved, and we did really well. We nearly got through to the Champions League. Deportivo La Coruña, beaten by them, and that was 8 million.
Yeah.
With 5 minutes to go, I remember Jason Bourne missed a sitter in the 6-yard box. Goalkeeper caught it, kicked it long, and their winger got onto it 1-0, and then they scored immediately after that, and we were out. That was it. So we came close, but the state of football now is very difficult. I think there's too many teams. I think they need to look at an amalgam of various, copy from lots of different sports. There should be 10 clubs perhaps in the League of Ireland. There should be a franchise basis. It'll never happen because the Bladers will be fighting. Yeah. And learn a bit from rugby, and then learn a bit from the GAA. Because what the GAA has been very successful at is bringing women into the game. Yeah. Not just playing, but really involved in it. That doesn't happen so much in soccer clubs. I can be very critical of the GAA, and I still have scars from the ban. So I am a soccer man. Let's be very clear.
No, but I agree with you. This whole death by 1,000 cuts, fail with them and succeed without them kind of mentality, where you just keep going down, it's a race to the bottom. And as you say, you need to etch a sketch it and start again. And you could plan it better.
Yeah, but if we're talking about, for example, women in issues here, I mean, look at another. Look at Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
One thing that Sinn Féin have done different to all the other political parties is they've engaged women.
And with that comes almost they might be able to govern, and kind of maybe you know what I mean, all this kind of this, it's like what we do. It's a brand relaunch to change mindsets from guns and blowing up people to fucking we can be in government.
Yeah, and look at all the young emerging Sinn Féin councillors. There's about 60-70% of them are women.
Yeah, I mean, let's drift in there because it's kind of weird seeing how long it's taken for, say, Me Too to blow up and become a thing where it's actually very fucking serious now. Certainly in advertising, we'd have a reputation for not being the greatest industry. Not, although in fairness, I haven't seen a lot of it, but the sort of people I worked with didn't tend to be mean like that or whatever. Where do you stand on that whole Me Too thing and where it's come from?
Well, I think it needed to be said. I suppose, like everything else, you can go overboard with it as well. People jump on the bandwagon. In Irish advertising, we've been quite good in bringing women to the fore. And even me saying bringing women to the fore, we didn't. They came to the fore themselves. And if you look at the current structures of agencies now, lots of the CEOs and managing directors of the larger agencies in Ireland are women.
Yeah, the best bosses I've had in advertising were women.
Yeah, so
there's not a dick measuring contest which goes on in the living.
Advertising in Ireland has reasonably got the balance right. Okay, there's room for more. One area that is interesting, I feel, that is lacking for some reason is the really top creatives. There's
a global issue. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, because women are as creative, if not more creative than men.
And yet, the most famous Irish ad person is a woman,
Catherine Donnelly. Yeah.
But I mean, there's been some talk about this. I mean, it's actually self-defeating because if there's more male creative directors, they're the ones who run juries. The sort of tone and style of advertising that men tend to write is different from women. They're the ones that get awarded. Those guys get on. Women tend to be sort of stuck writing fucking shitty ads for P&G.
Yeah,
and they don't tend to get to be able to break out from that. I was asked recently, would I see by someone in Australia? Would I have an issue with a female creative director? And I was like, no. But she was asking me. Patsy Peacock, hello for listening, was saying it in a way that most companies would.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't. Yeah. Nonsense. But this industry has issues. One of the issues it has is ageism. Big thing. Now,
he said it.
He says being over the hill mob himself. However, we're moving towards an older society. So what you have is, I was asked to speak at an over 55 conference about 10 years ago. But I did some research, just a vox pop in the office, and I just sent round an email to 50 people and said, name some of the songs that you think are on my iPod at the time.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe the answers I got from Daniel O'Donnell to Frank Sinatra to
U2,
the Wolf Tones. There was the odd U2.
Yeah.
But the very fact that, at the time I was listening to weird and wonderful stuff, But they had no perception of the world that I inhabit. Why? Because the average age was 25. If you're targeting an older age group and you've got a 25 or a 26-year-old, but what they're writing about are their parents and their grandparents. And if you go back in the day, it's not so much now, it's getting better, I have to say. Old people in ads, they're usually doing the garden or playing golf.
Looking over their glasses.
Yeah, or looking over a fence. Yeah. When the reality of it is, the highest users of Viagra in Ireland are the over 55s. And the people with disposable income are the over 55s. The highest incidence of sexually transmitted disease are in the over 50s now. Yeah. Because they're on 2 or 3 parts, they've gone out. So it's really... It's an interesting dynamic.
No, and I think also there's a lack of mentorship in agencies. Whether we're just like curmudgeonly old people, that's what they always do, give out about the songs today. They don't write them like they used to in the youth today. But if you look back the last 10, 15 years in advertising, there's nothing that jumps out at me and goes, I wish I did that. There's I can find some things, but if I go back the previous 15 years, there's 20 or 30 things. Now, fragmentation and the difficulty in getting something into the consciousness is there. The famous BBH, Levi's, Audi, Vorsprung, Dirk Technic, all that stuff, British Airways, all the stuff that was, the Irish, I don't know, I don't really look back on Irish advertising and go, oh, there's all these great ads particularly, but some of the Guinness stuff, I suppose, and that Arcs did, but that there's nothing there. There's just this vapidity, and it's like, it doesn't matter what is in the ad as long as the ad gets put into this algorithm that throws it up on my Scrabble app or something.
Well, I think, look, there's lots of reasons for that. I think obviously budgets have been reduced. Now, a lot of this is the agency's fault, our fault. You and me and people like us who let it happen to us, and it's a bit, the old frog in the boiling pot, all that stuff, because we allowed procurement to take over the process. So procurement are being brought in by big companies, and they're deciding that they're going to buy a piece of creative in the same way that they buy a bag of sand. The big bugbear here, which is why there's less and less older people in the business, is the blended rate. Some genius decided that this blended rate was going to work and imposed it on agencies, and unfortunately agencies accepted it. So basically a blended rate could be, say it's €100 an hour. So €150 an hour I will get for me, lots of experience, or I get it for a junior account executive. Yeah. What's happening is businesses are saying, well, we don't need all these people that are costing us a fortune if we're getting a higher return on younger people, less experience, so we have to pay less.
And we're just buying a bag of sand.
Yeah. And what's happening is then...
Sand is sand.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening is that they're looking at this and then they're rating it, saying, well, a blue sky idea will give you this for... it doesn't work like that. You know that better than anybody. But we've allowed ourselves. Yeah. We've accepted it. So
we had this fear of just the biggest... Once we get a client, we're just the biggest fear is that you go out to pitch. So do everything in your power to say yes to that client, have its head nodding, cut. Eventually it's going to go out to pitch anyway because you're probably bored the pants off by just giving it the same bag of sand every time,
I have no problem getting rid of clients and have done in the past.
Yeah, no, you're known for that.
Sometimes to my detriment, when you think about it later on, but at the same time you have to be true to yourself, and if people don't respect the work you're doing and not prepared to pay you enough for it, then what's the point? And you do have to get rid of them from time to time and take a risk. Now, it's easier said than done. However, I think if more of us were doing that, we wouldn't be in the state we're in.
It's about confidence and self-worth and your ability, and I mean that's why I love Mad Men, because some of the advertising bits of that are so well done. It's a time when there was a confidence. It's like, you're coming here because we know what we're doing and you don't know what you're doing. And the clients all think they know what they're doing, they don't.
There's been the account handling side have dominated this business for too long. A lot of it is suit led. The reality of it is most clients don't want to see or listen to suits. They want to see and listen to people that are a little bit different than them, creative people that look at the world a little bit differently. But for some reason, our business has been that way. And a client said to me about 3 or 4 years ago, Liam Sheehan, and he said to me, I don't want to be managed, I want to be excited. That has stuck with me, Stop trying to manage me, sending me over account handlers and account managers. I want to see really brilliant work that makes the hair on the back of my neck tingle. That's what I want. But then there are other clients who are so lazy, they want everything done for them, which means lots of account managers and less creative. So what the result is that the actual work that they get is not great. Another thing that's happened in the business, if you go back to the Mad Men days, when it started, there was creatives and there were suits. And then in the 70s, we had this thing called planning. The module of creativity, you had the module of suits, and then you had the module of planning. On top of that, then, we had this thing called technology. Technology permeates everything, and the technology overrides the idea. For example, back in the day, you and I would remember this concept called integrated marketing, and that was about making sure your message was the same across all the channels. If you heard something on radio, you needed to make sure you understood it if you've seen it on TV. Now the integration means something else. It's an integration of the voices. So that if I'm sitting there doing this thing, meerkatting at home, and I'm a teenager and I have my laptop on, the TV's on, and I have my smartphone, I need to be able to see the same message. So it's important that the integration of the devices rather than the ideas. So very often what happens is we're presenting ideas and the technologist decides which one they're going to choose, because they say, or he or she says to you, that's not going to work on that platform, or that's not going to work on that. So basically, we have now got
the mechanics of the medium are driving.
Techies deciding the creativity.
That's
wrong.
I think it's got it. I can feel the wheels maybe falling off. Gary runs I think, are you chairman here at JWT?
I'm executive director. It keeps
executive director.
But I'm involved in helping the business. Yeah.
Right. So it's one of the biggest ad agencies in Dublin recently, caused by the merger of Target McConnell's and TDF H&B. I just want to go back now just onto your chronology, because actually one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was the sort of the class system, and like you would be a, if I'm not being offensive, a sort of barrow boy come good in the ad business. And if you remember, in the UK, a huge number of famous ad people came from, working in fruit and veg stores, or they understood what it meant to live and to graft and to buy things, and all this sort of stuff. That's all gone. In came you had to have a degree and whatever the fuck, and it was who your dad knew and all this kind of stuff. So you've crept to the very top of the business through that path, which is rare. How did you when you finished school that time? Your dad said to you, "Go to school." You did that because he was echoing in you. What happened then? Where did you?
As I say, I made the mistake. Still have the scars of studying accountancy for 2 years, and I hated it, and worked as a trainee accountant in a builders providers and hated it, and decided then after that I had to go and leave, and I gave it up. And then I got a job as a salesman selling print.
What was your motivation then, just to get a job? Yeah.
Get a job, and if I could get a job as a salesman and do well, I could earn commission. And I reckon the harder I work, the more I could earn. And I was really purely about that. So, but when I got the bug of selling, I always had a creative bent in me anyway. For some reason, I used to write stuff. I would write really nice letters to clients and all that. And some of the other sales guys would ask me to write letters for them. So I became almost a copywriter, writing sales letters in the office, and very often I charge these guys for it as well. Yeah. So I was doing that, and then I kind of discovered I need to get better at this. So how do I get better at it? So I went to the College of Marketing and enrolled in there and did a degree course there. Didn't finish it, but enrolled for 5 years, did it for 3 years. Right. And that was a great grounding in the basics of marketing. And I always remember...
Why didn't you finish it?
Sorry?
Why didn't you finish it?
I taught it enough, I learned enough. Some of the lectures were coming in and reading out of books, and I said, I don't need that, I can just do that myself. Interesting about that was, I remember you talk about the working class. Still, my friends were from Cabra and Finglas and everywhere else, and my mates were plumbers, or they were driving trucks and everything else, and they'd say when we'd having a few pints, "Browner, what are you doing now? You're doing something at night, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm studying marketing." They go, "Marketing? Yeah, what's that? Is that like selling, is it? Or is that advertising, or what is it?" And I got so frustrated. I decided, that's it, I'm going to have an answer. So I sat down and I looked at what was marketing, and I still have it to this day. So when someone says to me, you say to me, "What's marketing?" I would say, deep breath, marketing is the management function which organises and directs all those activities involved in assessing and directing consumer purchasing power into effective demand for a product or service, and moving their product or service to the end user so as to achieve the targets or other objectives set by the organisation. And you know what? They never asked me again. Yeah. That was the end of that. When I started studying marketing, I then got a job in Delarue Smurfit. They looked at the whole area of direct mail production for print. Like the Dutch post office and the Dutch KLM were quite insightful, and they went over to people like Time magazine and The Economist and said, "Look, if you have this big audience in Europe, why don't you, instead of paying all the shipping costs, why don't you print it and distribute it?" Oh. So the Dutch print industry became really great at that. So Smurfit looked at that, and I was put in charge of product development. And with that, I was sent away to America, and I spent 6 months going all around New York, meeting people, interviewing people like Lester Wonderman. So I learned all this stuff, and I came back and I made a proposal to Smurfit to set up this big production, and they said, "No, we're going into computer manuals," which is good for them. But I had at that stage developed all these skill sets on direct marketing, knew what it was. I said to myself, "There's no direct marketing agency in Ireland. So look, I'll have a go at it myself." And that's really how that started,
That was called Target, was it?
Called Target Marketing, not quite an original name at the time.
No, of course, but I remember it. I remember when, but also you were entering this guns blazing, and you're coming in as a businessman. You're coming in ignoring. I mean, I can't let go. I'm sure it happened later, but every time I mention I'm meeting you, everyone goes, "Oh yeah, he's the guy who kicked the shit out of someone at an award show." Maybe we're not allowed to go here.
No, we don't.
Statutes of limitations.
I didn't kick him.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, I know, but you have this reputation. I mean, tell that story first of all, if you can. I don't know whether you're probably said it in court settlements. It was very. I'll tell it. It was a funny story anyway. I don't know whether I got this right, but there was some award show, and Gary was winning some award, I think, and some of the judges didn't like the way he was made a comment to you, said you were a knacker, and you hit them. Is that fair?
Well, he called me a knacker on 3
Knacker's
occasions.
very derogatory.
He called me a knacker on 3 occasions, and I warned him on each occasion to stop. So,
Yeah.
you know, you are what you are, and you know that's so.
But I mean, it's the old you fuck one sheep joke, right? Because
yeah, that's true.
Everywhere it's like,
no.
But it's not a bad attitude. It's not a bad brand image to have. You know,
it's not bad.
You're not. I know you're a very kind guy, and I know you don't suffer fools. And we often, even back then, we used to gravitate towards each other and chat, and we didn't work together, I don't think. But, you know, but this idea that you, and I have it, and you have it, and I get hauled over the coals for opening my trap and I see bullshit. I don't like it. And I call it out internally, I call it out sometimes with clients. I haven't decked anyone yet, but, you know, that there is this element of you that's come in to the business with a fucking, look, this business is full of bullshit and I'm just going to cut through it. And you did.
Yeah, well, I suppose you have to have a point of difference, and that's the first thing. You always, you have to have a point of difference yourself. If you're going in and you're working with brands, have to have points of differences. So I looked at it and said, well, how am I going to make a difference here? Well, I'll come up with the accountable role.
Yeah.
We target people and we make sure that, you know, we get a return on investment, and you give them figures and you give them models. We were doing stuff that at the time was really, a man got in saying, oh, what's all this stuff you're spending on awareness advertising? Listen, let me tell you about awareness advertising. Awareness advertising, it's an involuntary act. Once you become aware of something, you don't need to be kept being aware of it. And what you're spending more and more money on making people aware of something they're already aware of. Well, me, what I'll do is I will get them to change behaviour and buy your product. And I'll do it in a targeted way, and I'll give you a return on investment. So that was our spiel at the time. And we were quite successful at doing it, and we were aggressive, and we were called all sorts of things. And you know, those guys don't understand strategy, and those guys. But we were delivering results and tangible results. And we started in 1990, but we nearly went bust in '94. We had a bad debt for 30 grand at the time, which was big money now, but huge money then. So we'd let everybody go, having built a little business, and I paid my way through it. Didn't pay myself for 9 months. What was interesting was, I don't like saying this, but 94 was the World Cup in the America. Me being a big soccer fan, I said, how am I going to get to the World Cup? And I ended up having extra tickets, so had to go to America and sold some tickets. At the time, desperate men do desperate things. So anyway, we got through that, and
I was at it as well.
Yeah, we came back and we grew the business, and it was myself and the team, and they were really dedicated and doing stuff. Started winning awards, doing really well, and we managed. Then we got some work from the Agio. That really was a game changer for us, because the Agio had big budgets and listened to us, and you know, we said we can convert people. Like, for example, the Guinness brand at the time was losing market share to young people, and there was a taste barrier, and then, you know, we came up with some great programs. We had a sensible sampling program. It's an acquired taste. If we could get groups of people to taste it over a period of time, we'd move them up, you know, from rejectors to adopters and adorers and all that stuff, the great stuff that they have. And then we tapped into the whole idea of database marketing that we were doing at the time. Now, we were quite ahead of our time, and we were using data back in, this is like 95, 96, 97. We were using data in a way nobody else was using it. We were using,
before we had computers.
Demographic and sociographic stuff. We ended up with a database for Guinness with 330,000 drinkers, and we knew that if we could get you onto that database, we could increase consumption by 1.6 points a week. And that resulted in...
How are you talking to me?
What? I don't think you were around there.
No, but I was. How were you talking to them? Like, just by mail?
Just by mail, yeah.
Right.
But we would mail them 4 or 5 times a year. But we knew what they were interested in. We knew if they were interested in hurling or rugby or music, or maybe all three. We knew how to talk to them. We knew what pubs they were drinking in, because we had them down against pub. We knew what off licenses they were drinking in. Yeah. We knew some of their friends. For example, we had this birthday card, which is an innovation at the time. We'd send you out a birthday card and it'd say, "Dear Gary, happy birthday. Your birthday's next Tuesday. Please bring this into Harry Burns, your local pub. Yeah. Have a pint of Guinness next Tuesday on us. Complimentary pint." And then we'd mail your friends and we'd say, "Dear Sean,
just do that now.
Dear Sean,
on your phone.
Dear Sean, it's Gary's birthday next Tuesday. Why don't you join him in Harry?" And you know, Irish people being Irish people, we go in for one complimentary pint in the home.
You had to print all of those things and post them out, and someone had to open an envelope. Yeah, and they don't even do that now, which they could do on my phone easily.
Well, we were doing it for a while on the phone as well, and that
you know what I mean. Like today, that's a good example of something that
I get you. But you know what? It's still, you know, I'm not a Luddite here by any stretch of the imagination. Those things are really easily done now, much easier done. But you know what? When's the last time you got a piece of really well crafted direct mail?
Nothing. They irritate me. They come at me, which, that's always been level at advertising. You irritate people and they get pissed off, and your jingle is pissing them off. But in this, they're not understanding how I'm using it. I rarely see someone goes, that's fucking clever, the way they did that, right?
Yeah.
It's all, they play the same ad in my app over and over and over and over again for a week, to the point where I'm sick of it, right? And I have to watch 20 seconds of it before I can switch the fucking thing off, and I always switch the thing off. We haven't applied any thought. What I'm more interested in is the simplicity of an idea of giving someone a pint in Ireland on their birthday from Guinness. Now that we have a phone in our paw, the ease with which that could be done, and the cost taken away from all the printing and all that.
Well, it got...
That's free Guinness.
It was so...
Gary's anymore.
What that led to us is this thing here. In 2005, I was
DMA Awards.
Summoned to... We
still got a bit of blood on it.
Yes, that was before that. But I remember being in Atlanta, standing up on the stage and being given the Diamond Echo, which is the best piece of direct marketing in the world, against every other agency. And that was quite a proud moment from a little agency from Dublin.
Yeah. So you came into the establishment of advertising all guns blazing. You were successful. You nearly went bust. These sorts of things, you seem to be able to roll with the punches. What's your kind of lesson learned in terms of looking back in your career and the near misses and the successes? What would you...
I think you have to have an opinion. That's the first thing. And you have to have a point of difference. And you have to keep ramming those home. And be true to yourself. Don't accept people denigrating you or putting you down. Don't accept people, someone to call you a knacker, you tell them don't do that again. If you keep doing it, something might happen to you. I am an easygoing guy, but I'm from the streets, so basically there's a way of growing up. Someone pokes you in the eye, you poke them back twice. That's just the way it is. Without being confrontational, you have to be bloody good at what you do, and you have to deliver. Lots of people now, they're great at promising, but you have to deliver. Just yesterday we had the discussion about somebody I'm doing some pro bono work for, and they're talking about, dialing up the emotional end of stuff. And I said, that's great, but that only works for a while. You have to be able to deliver. People often say to me, well, what's a brand? And I just say very simply, it's a promise. That's what it is. Yeah. And the day you stop delivering on your promise is the day people start looking around for other brands. And first thing is, you're a brand yourself. So when you say you're going to do something, do it. Yeah. Follow through on it and get it done. But lots of people don't do that.
What about away from the advertising? You're married, you have a few kids.
Yeah, 3 kids, yeah.
3 kids.
She's got leaving cert results today. So,
today's leaving cert today. That's the big exams for kids.
Traumatic time in people's lives in Ireland, yeah.
Did they do well?
She did well, yeah. She's delighted with herself, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about away from the ad business, though. Like Trump, Ireland, Inc., what's happening in Brexit, your views on the future of the world. Are you positive, negative?
Yeah, well, I am positive. I wrote a piece there about a year and a half ago that caused a bit of a stir, and I call it the tyranny of positivity. We're all been beaten into being positive, and there's no room for dissenting voices anymore. You have to be positive.
I would say the opposite. I would say that someone like Pinker and his view on the fact that we're living in the best of times is a positive view. And I see negativity everywhere. You can't do this, you can't that. Oh, look at the shock.
No, but you can't tell people, look, you're not really good at what you do.
Okay, this is...
And you know what? You're a lazy little shit.
Yeah. And
if you don't get your finger out... We have kids coming in here with degrees and they've never been told a negative thing about themselves in their life.
We're talking a different...
But they are being told, you can be the next Conor McGregor. No, you can't. Yeah. Cop yourself on.
YouTuber.
You can be the next. You can be this. You can be that. Now, that's not possible. Like, for example, school teachers, right, are being told now not to mark copies with a red pen because it intimidates. Intimidates some of the students.
People with ginger hair get offended.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a whole thing on being offended. That's ridiculous. Get offended, get over yourself.
And also in America, like in soccer, going back to where we started, they have under 7s. They don't count the score in the game. Jesus, the whole point of the game.
And you have to tell everyone how good they are.
The little fucking rubberneck.
I remember my son, who wasn't a bad footballer and a good rugby player as well, but I remember running his team, and we were under there was 3 teams, and under the 10, and this dad says to me, why is my Shawnee in the second team? And I said to him, because we don't have a tour team. You know, but you can't say that, because you're accused of all sorts of things. But it needs to be said sometimes. You know, I got to be relatively friendly with Alex Ferguson over the years when I was involved in Shelburne. We set up the kind of co-op thing with them and stuff like that. And that's that young girl in his arms there who was 6 weeks old. That's the one who did the Leaving Cert today. But one of the things he said, I said when someone said to him, you know, what if you want to make it, what? And he said, sacrifice. You know, you need to sacrifice, and you need to have that hunger. And you know, I mean, the issue is not just the snowflake generation. It's the same when I say with businesses. People come to me after a conference. Oh, Gary, we have this little problem. I wonder, can you help me with it? I go, no problem. Here's my card. Email me what your problem is, and I guarantee I'll get back to you.
They never
hear them again.
No, it's ridiculous.
They want you to give them a couple of sound bites, but they're not prepared to do the work to actually tell you what. Go and dig down deep, because they give me something. I say, is this the real problem you have? They're not prepared to really go get their hands dirty and say, this is the problem I have. How can you help me? Yeah. And I don't bother with people like that.
Do you have confidence in the way humanity's moving?
Yeah, I suppose I do. I mean, obviously, a lot of this has been, a lot of it is coming from Trump, the language he uses and the methods he uses, which are all kind of sensational and, you know, tweeting.
Do you like part of Trump?
Do I like part of him?
I mean, I know I'm sure you don't like him, but do you identify with the street fighter of him?
Yeah, you kind of do to a little bit, but I don't like the way he goes about it. I mean, that language yesterday with that girl calling her a dog, you know. Yeah. I mean, whether it was a guy or a girl, it just happened to be a woman, you know, I mean, and tweeting about it. There's something quite strange about that. But what I find about Trump is he never follows through on anything he says now. You know, we're talking about brand being a promise. Soon, after a while, people are going to cop him on and know that is just bluster. I think they will. Yeah. Brexit is the very same thing. I mean, you have people coming up, talk about fake news. People like Farage and Boris saying, if we leave the EU, we will save X amount per week on the NHS. Now that's all complete lies. So, I don't know how Brexit is going to go. I'm still not convinced it'll happen.
No, I agree. I think they're going to work out a way to do another referendum.
Irish people laughing at that. We had to do that too.
3 times,
yeah. Well, someone said, you know, actually, lads, I think you made a bit of a ball to that, like, and you go, just fair enough. Right head, we'll go back and do that, you know.
You're also a publican. Talk to me about your pub.
Yeah, being a publican, well, I'm involved with a group of guys that own a pub. We set up a traditional Irish music venue on the north side of the inner city called Piper's Corner, and it's to do with the fact that we wanted to find an area that we're all Northsiders involved in the pub. We wanted to. It's in an area that needs some regeneration. That's happening now. We're fans of, very proud of being Irish. One of the guys is a great Ilan Piper's dad was in the Chieftains. His name is Sean Potts. So there is that great tradition of Irish music coming through, and we wanted something that was authentic and real. It's great crack.
It's a good, authentic Irish music experience, and I mean that with the greatest respect to O'Donoghue's and places like that where all the tourists go. But if you're a tourist coming to Dublin, this is real, wrong side of the tracks, proper Irish. You play music there every night.
Yeah, every night 9 o'clock it's on, and really great trad players, you know. So yeah.
So this is my usual closing question of these interviews. You did speak at the start about how your father's been with you all your life. What would you say to the 11-year-old Gary who just lost his dad, if you had to go back and say something?
It's funny, I got to write a note to my 15-year-old nephew who he's now living in Brazil. He lost his dad when he was very young. At 15, for some reason, in Brazil, it's kind of a watermark, and people write letters, which is a great thing, great discipline, you know, to sit down and write a letter to somebody, especially a 15-year-old. And the guy is a brilliant kid. He's into music. When he was a kid, he was singing that's like 9 years ago now, that song by Rihanna, Please Don't Stop the Music, Please Don't Stop the Music. And I always remember him singing that. And so I started the letter with Please Don't Stop the Music, because he's now become a really great musician.
Oh, right.
And I spoke to him about how losing his dad can be quite a defining thing for you, and you have to use it because you need to help people around you, and it can be quite character building because you are left a little bit on your own with that gap in your life, and so you have to fill that gap yourself because nobody else is going to fill it for you unless you get really lucky and you have a really good mentor. And just be true to yourself and think of him and think of his values and think of him being there on your shoulder. Like, it's funny, you know, I've now written a play, and that's going to be on in the Viking Theatre in January. And it's not about him, but it's about some of the things. It's about two guys in their 50s in a pub and talking about a young barman. It's about the slagging. it's about slagging that goes on, and sometimes we go
What's
over
the name
top
of the
of it. It's called Back Live.
Back Live.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a happy ending, but it's a black comedy.
Right.
But yeah, some of the stuff came through that is, for example, there's a gap in his life. There'll always be a gap. Accept it. Don't try and fill it in. The gap from my life has always been that anything that I've ever achieved, I never feel great about it because he wasn't there to see it. But don't feel that, because it's back to, it gives you, the chip on both shoulders. Yeah, you're trying to prove yourself all the time.
Yeah.
You never get there, you know yourself. But that's probably what I'd say. First of all, I have a philosophy: love me, hate me, don't ignore me. People don't like you, and maybe you try and make them like it. If it doesn't work, just leave them alone. Move on to people that do, and people who appreciate you and respect you and want to listen to you and want to be close to you. What are people not worth it? So love me, hate me, don't ignore me. Same thing that you can talk about advertising. Your ads, if you make them properly, they're not going to appeal to everybody. They shouldn't, Yeah, and just be true to yourself. At the end of the day, put your head in the pillow and say, well, now not everything you do, I have regrets, but I don't dwell on them. What's the point? You can't unring a bell. Just move on. That's what I say. Be true to yourself and realise not everybody's going to like you. Don't worry about that. Concentrate on the people that do like you and do appreciate you and try and work with them.
Gary Brown, it's been a great ride, love that. Piper's Corner is the name of the pub in Dublin, and if you go in there, I'm just throwing this out as a direct marketing thing, and you mention a pint with Seaniebee, you get a free pint of Guinness. How's that?
Free drink tomorrow. Yeah, that's the motto.
Only for tomorrow,
Yeah.
the day it launches.
Listen, if you buy two, you pay for both of them. How about that?
Thanks a million, mate.
All right.